Welcome back to Read the Book First. Today we'll be talking about the 1972 middle grade? Children's, yeah. Anyways, classic. The Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Paterson. And you might be asking, Janessa, why would you read this? And I would like to ask Amanda, why did you make me reread this?
In all fairness, I don't remember making you reread it. I remember that it was on the little Google sign-up sheet, and I said, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, because I like this book a lot.
Yeah.
I remember reading, I don't remember when I read it. I know I read it at some point in elementary school, and I read it more than once in elementary school. But yeah. It's a good book.
No, it is. It's a great book. I obviously won awards for reasons. I read this in second or third grade. And I remember loving it until the end and then hating it because obviously the ending was too complex for my brain at that moment that I refused to understand the why it's the book ends that way and the purpose of the whole book kind of. And then I was just no, this is dumb.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But rereading it, I finished it this morning. I woke up at 7:30 this morning and read the last 50 pages. And I don't know if you can tell, but my eyes are still a little puffy.
Yeah.
Because I was
crying
a lot.
That's okay. I finished this book 2 weeks ago when we were originally going to record this. And then I finished it at 1 a.m. and was having all of the feelings. And I was like, man, this book hits different when you're not a child.
It really does. It really does. If you've not somehow read or watched Bridge to Terabithia, obviously spoilers, but it is about a boy and a girl and their friendship, and things happen and it ends in a sad way. It's eventually just a story about grief. Mm-hmm. I would argue the second half's about grief and the first half is just about friendship and growing up.
Yes, in the sense of I feel like the first half is still about that loneliness that can happen.
Yes, it's about childhood loneliness. I think that's
and the connection that the connections that you seek out with other people.
Yeah, and
how you move forward once those connections are ripped away.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair, definitely.
Which honestly, probably one of the reasons I like this book as a kid is, spoiler alert, when you lose your grandparents at a very young age, you need help with grief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed the second half of this book more than the first half. The first half to me was very much like a children's lit book where each chapter wasn't quite long enough, or it was just event, which I understand that's part of the genre, but I felt like the second half of the book flowed really well, chapter 8 or 9 onward, whereas the first 7 or so chapters kind of were just
they were very spotty. They're very it's Christmas and Jess is trying to save up money for the Christmas gift. There's a bully.
Yeah.
Jess confronted a bully, and now there's this girl, and Leslie's going to make friends with her, and we don't really get any kind of resolution on the fact that her father beats her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
they find a dog.
Yeah, it's very kid book, which I understand, but I felt because I read the second half of this book this morning, I felt it was stronger in general. But anyways, our main character is Jesse, who is the only boy in a family of girls. His dad drives to Washington, D.C. every day or for a couple days at a time for work. They're quite poor. Their mom is she's going through it. She's she's overwhelmed, and so much so that she kind of is not doing what she could and should be doing as a mom.
And poor Jesse, he not only is he the only boy, he's the middle boy. Mm-hmm. So he is classic middle child, and also his mom relies on him to do a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So he's always getting scolded for not doing this or scolded for not doing that.
He's stuck doing all the quote boy chores, where his 4 sisters who are old enough, or her 2 sisters who are old enough to do chores, they help out in the kitchen and that's about it. And they kind of get out of things because they're able to sass their mom around and manipulate her.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's this level of ooh, that's not great.
Yeah. And in the beginning, Jesse talks a lot about how he loves to draw and he loves to be creative, but he knows he shouldn't be that around his dad specifically. Mm-hmm. And that the art teacher like the music teacher, he has like this like big like crush on her, but also it's the fact that she's like, you are allowed to be creative and look at, you're good at this. That's awesome. Like have this outlet.
Yeah, it's very classic toxic masculinity kind of culture where he doesn't really have the tools to be himself because there's this expectation of this is what boys are. And Jesse is perfectly capable of being that, but he's also a really creative, really artistic kid. He doesn't like the building stuff. Like they have a little anecdote at the very beginning about like this time that Jesse and his father, they got like a NASCAR track and or maybe that was at Christmas. Well, either way,
it doesn't matter.
His dad was trying to build it with him and they both got frustrated and Jesse felt bad because he was like, oh, this really isn't my thing and my dad is trying so hard but it's not working and I don't know how to help and I'm ruining the only time I get with my father. Yeah. It's like, oh, bro.
Anytime Jesse talks about his dad, especially in the beginning, he's like, I see my dad holding my younger sisters like they're babies. And I just wish that he would do that to me. But he can't and he won't because his dad is like that. And that, like, in the beginning, that just, like, sets up where Jesse is mentally. And it's not like, I think for this book being written in the 70s from, we'll talk about Katherine Paterson, I guess, towards the end. I thought it was pretty impressive that like how much this book plays on gender roles in this time period because Katherine Paterson was not a hippie, but she's obviously in this world of like Vietnam Wars happening, all the hippie like there's all this like cultural stuff happening. So I think it's really interesting that in this book has these two characters, Jesse and then eventually Leslie, and how they like both defy gender stereotypes and that's part of their bonding. And it's not in a like, haha, look at, if you would have been more like a boy, Jesse, you would have, it's not like that. It's like, no, live like your true self, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The more I've like looked and like Googled about Katherine Paterson, I was like, unexpected, interesting.
See, and it's so funny because you said 1972 and I was like, wait, this wasn't written in the 80s? Like, because I'm not saying that it's like that the 80s were like a progressive time in any respect, but the like mindset of like, hey,
in kids' books it was,
and this kind of tackling of these sort of gender norms and how it affects kids again felt very 80s. But
anyways, Jesse wants to be the fastest kid in 5th grade, and that's a big thing for him. And so he gets to school and he's been training all summer between milking his cow, Miss Bessie, right?
Yeah.
Shout out Miss Bessie. Then suddenly a neighbor girl moves in next door and she's like classic tomboy and she's very fast.
Yes.
And he ends up standing up for her with the other boys at recess when she's like, I want to run too. And they're like, no, you can't. You're a girl. Go play with the girls. And Jesse's like, let her run. Like,
are you scared she's going to beat you?
Yeah.
And then poor Jesse, he does get beat by her.
Yeah.
She wins.
Yeah, she wins. But then they become friends because they're kind of both outcasts in different ways, right? Jesse's an outcast because he's not as like outwardly masculine as the other boys, but also because I think the class issues too. I think because his family's so poor, he's also an outcast. And then the new girl, Leslie, is just, she's from the city. She's
from DC. Yeah. She's from Washington.
Yeah. She's from
Arlington. They name drop Arlington.
I know they name dropped Arlington, and I knew you were going to make a big deal about it. Called you out.
Called out. Red for filth.
So she's like from the city. Her parents are also like, they're both writers.
They're both writers, but like her mom is more successful than her dad, and her dad's like more of a political science writer, I think.
Yeah, so like more of the creative, like they're more hippie adjacent than anyone else in this small rural town. So she's an outcast of that. She's new. She's also the tomboy. So like,
and they make like a comment about they moved here for her, and then she's like, I kind of hate it here because everyone is mean to me because I'm a tomboy, and apparently that's not a thing. It's like, sorry, girlie.
Yeah. They said that a couple times that they moved out of the city for her. Do we really know why? I have some like guesses just based off some things that the dad says.
I'm not 100% sure. This is kind of speculation on my part. I don't remember if they say it explicitly. My speculation is that they moved out so that they could kind of get a more writing space and just more space in general. Plus, her parents really strike me as the like kind of hippy dippy types that are going to sit there and be like, let's go out and be in touch with the real people.
And be very crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I kind of got that vibe, and that they needed more space for themselves, but they said it was for her. I mean, growing up in the country versus growing up in the city are two very different experiences. And just based off how much we see how much Leslie loves being in nature, it makes sense that maybe that's why. But like, also there's a like a line at the towards the end, like one of the last chapters, where the dad tells Jesse like, if like we moved out here for Leslie, and like she talked about how much obviously like you meant to her, but like something about like her hurting herself of some sort. Like it wasn't like explicit, but it was like, I think maybe like she had issues with like maybe depression or something like that.
I mean,
that's the kind of
that
vibe
makes sense.
I get from the situation. But
I mean, Leslie's like pretty clearly a lonely kid, right?
Yeah.
You know, even outside of just the outcastness, like, I mean, and maybe this is me projecting fully, but I mean, I get the sense that even back like in the city, she was still kind of an out. She was still an outcast.
She was still an outcast.
Still didn't really have friends. Still didn't really fit in.
And she's the only child, which I think for such a social kid, because she just wants to be social, but this only one of her at home, and her parents are both busy writing.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then that's the other thing that's interesting about Jesse is we already kind of touched on his older sisters and they're jerks. His youngest sister is like 4, and it's just kind of a little bit of a terror. And 4 might even be pushing it. It sounds like she's almost like early toddlerdom.
Is that Maybelle or the other one?
The other one.
The other one.
Maybelle's
like 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, Maybelle's 6 or 7. So before Leslie really shows up and becomes prominent, that's like the one that Jesse hangs out with the most. And it's solely because like his older sisters want nothing to do with him. He doesn't have a lot in common with the other boys in his class. And obviously the youngest one is the one that's getting the most attention from everybody.
Yeah, because she's baby. And then Maybelle also shares the room with Jesse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, throughout the story, like we kind of said in the beginning, there's kind of like not random, like just like day in the life of these characters. But we see Jesse and Leslie become friends. And the most important part is that they're neighbors, but there's this like patch of like forest near them that they go and explore. There's this like creek going through, and there's like a rope swing on this crabapple tree, and they're able to swing across the creek, and they create a kingdom that they call Terabithia.
Yeah.
And it's this magical kingdom where they're the queen and king of it, and they go, and it's all Leslie is driving this, and Jesse's like, okay. Sure.
Yeah, so he'll sit there and he'll draw pictures of it, of what she's describing, but she's the one that sits there and like says, oh, we need to go make an offering to the forest spirits because it's been raining for 5 days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And just like kind of these endless sort of like, she's clearly inherited her parents' imagination.
Yes. Yeah.
And she could be a great writer someday. Except
too soon, Amanda.
I mean, the book came out 50 years ago?
I know, but we're not there yet because I might get sad again. Leslie's dad's also fixing up the house, so there's just a lot of spare lumber and things. And at one point, Jessie like sees Leslie helping her dad and sees like their relationship and is like very jealous of the fact that Leslie's dad like lets her help and do things and talks to her. They are able to take some of the spare supplies and they build like a little fort in the woods.
Yes.
And that's Terabithia. The name Terabithia is spelled Terabithia, which is different than the Narnia Terabithia. There's the second Terabithia. Narnia is Tere. And in Narnia, it's an island that Prince Caspian goes to, or refers to. Apparently, Katherine Paterson thought she had made up the name because also there's the Terabith tree that's in the Bible. And then she said when she was later, after she had written the book, was rereading Prince Caspian with her kids, she realized, oh, I definitely didn't make up this name. I just changed it. But also there's that tree in the Bible. So we just probably maybe had a similar idea, which I thought was an interesting... whether or not to cover. She changes and also they reference Chronicles of Narnia in the book. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's also like in universe, it's 100% Leslie referencing Chronicles of Narnia, whether or not Katherine Paterson meant it to or not.
Yeah, but that's a scandal of the book. One of the scandals, which is silly.
Was like the C.S. Lewis estate mad about it?
They're not really mad at that kind of stuff. They're pretty chill for as far as big estates go of authors. I was trying to remember when I read this in second or third grade, whenever I read it, and trying to, because I was a tomboy in the way that I loved playing outside, and my parents are like, go play outside till it's sundown, like all the time. In Alaska, like, you're gonna get wet and muddy, so you just kind of have to deal with it. But I also was liked girly things too, so I wasn't like full out tomboy, but I definitely dressed like a tomboy growing up. I don't remember ever identifying with Leslie, or like, she wasn't one of the characters that I was always like, oh, I love her as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was reading this, and I was like, what about Jessie? I don't think, because I never cared about running, and I did like to draw a lot, but like, that's not a huge. Like, it is something, like, it's one of the things he likes to do, but it's not like, he doesn't talk about it all the time. I mean, Leslie gets him paints later on, but it's like.
I think it's, I gotta disagree with you there. I think it's definitely like a core aspect to his character, and it's something that he does care about a lot. It's just that he's also been taught that he can't really care about it that much. And also, like, seeing how much his family struggles with money, it's not like he's gonna sit there and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go be an artist. Yeah. Have fun. Getting $1 to spend on Christmas presents.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just like, when I was rereading it, I was just trying to think about me as a kid reading it. And I think I was really into the imagination part of it, because that's definitely how me and my friends made up forts and had different like countries and rules and clubs that we'd made up all the time in the woods. And so like, that's definitely how I played as a kid.
That's city kid versus country kid stuff when it comes right down to it. And really, like, you know, obviously, I don't really even need to tell you, but I identified pretty heavily with Leslie as a kid. Yeah. I want to talk about the beginning of school year a little bit more. Okay. But like, because the other thing about poor Leslie coming in is they're so caught off guard by the fact that there's another kid that they just shove a desk in there and like crammed in the front corner, and the teacher's kind of frazzled, and everyone hates this teacher because she's so mean and grumpy and like rude all the time. And she thinks that Leslie's this perfect little angel, but Leslie's always making fun of her like in the backdrop, and it's like, I mean, that's very kid stuff.
It's kid stuff, and also it's very small town stuff that they like, you know, everyone who's been in this town for decades, and suddenly there's a new family and a new kid. That's a big deal.
And a new kid that is always wearing pants and doesn't go to church and doesn't have any siblings, doesn't watch TV. Yeah. Because that was like, they don't have a TV at their house. And it's like, that's like a big scandal.
Oh yeah, there's that one homework assignment where they have to watch TV.
Yeah, they have to watch like Jacques Cousteau's like documentary series. And they're all like, and Leslie's like, my family doesn't have TV. Yeah. And she's like, everyone's like, what? Because, you know, there's like 2 channels on the TV. Yeah. So everyone can watch it.
For Christmas, Leslie gets Jessie watercolors and paper. And then Jessie, who has no money to spend on anything because his family's very poor.
Because his dad loses his job.
That's not till Easter, though. But he has a job at Christmas. But still, they're not making much money at all. And they also have 5 kids to deal with. That's a lot. But he ends up finding a puppy that's free. Like, they're giving away for free. And so he gets this puppy for Leslie, and they name it Prince Terabithia, or PT. And he's such a cute little puppy. But yeah, so the puppy starts going with them to Terabithia. Maybelle occasionally tries to like follow them, and Jessie's always like yelling at her to leave them alone.
Go away, go away.
Yeah, which as older sibling I identified with.
As a younger sibling, I understood the vibe.
But yeah, then Easter, Jesse's dad loses his job, which is obviously a huge thing because he's the moneymaker of this family. Jesse's sisters make a big deal. They always make a big deal about clothes, and they always manipulate their way of getting their way. Like, they're just such brats. And I like, obviously, the story's not told from Jesse's point of view, but it's told so that we're on Jesse's side, obviously. And he's a very sympathetic character. Like, it's hard not to like Jesse. Yeah. Like, we just want, you just want the best for him. Yeah. But I think the sisters are being brats, but also I think every time they're brats, it shows how much their mom is just overwhelmed and just like gives in. It's like, whatever. But because Jesse's because there's multiple girls, they can like team up together. But because Jesse's the only boy, if he ever tried to do any of that, one, they're gonna maybe like, I don't know if we know that some of the other kids in the schools get hit by their parents, but like it's the 70s, he probably would have to like get a stick from the back or like,
Yeah.
That could happen because he's a boy, but also they probably have less tolerance for tomfoolery because he's the only boy, whereas the girls have each other to.
And there's that expectation that he's more responsible, he's more mature, even though he's younger.
Yeah.
And it's like, interesting.
Yeah.
But also, his sisters are teenagers. And I get the vibe just from the way the mom talked a lot. Is that part of the reason why they always get everything they want? Is because she was like flashing back to her own childhood? And maybe that's just me reading way too much into it.
Yeah, I just think she's
overwhelmed and
she's
tired.
Overwhelmed and out of it. She has teenagers and she has a 3-year-old.
Like, oh God.
And some in between. Like that's a lot. And she's the only one at home most days, trying to keep everything afloat at home. That's a lot. But they're getting ready to go to church. They only go on Easter because their mom got mad at the pastor, which I thought was funny. And Leslie asked to go with them.
And his mom says this really snotty comment of like, she needs to wear a dress. Make sure your friend wears a dress. I can't have a girl wearing pants to church. And I remember being a girl who went to church constantly in shorts and pants, being like, what an odd thing to say.
Wearing pants to church was scandalous until I was a teenager.
Dang.
For girls, yeah. But also more conservative, old-fashioned kind of churches versus the church she went to.
Yes.
Very different vibes. So she goes with them, and there's this conversation that Leslie, Mabel, and Jesse have afterwards, because Jesse doesn't like the idea of church because Jesse thinks, well, he doesn't like church because he's forced to go to it, one, which is like classic kid stuff, right? You don't like it because you're forced to do it. But also he doesn't like how like mean and horrible the story of Jesus and like the crucifixion is, which again is fair.
Super
Whereas
fair.
Leslie has this other like viewpoint of it where she has like kind of like this idealized version of religion because she's not forced to do it and her parents don't care outwardly about it. And so she's like, I think it's beautiful. I have something to believe in and all this. But she doesn't believe in the Bible. And Mabel's like, if you don't believe in the Bible, you're going to get damned to hell.
What if you die?
What if you die? And
what if you die?
It's like 2 or 3 times. And here's an issue I had with this book is that it is not until the Easter chapter that they mention that the water in the creek is rising. They don't mention that Jesse does not know how to swim until this chapter, and they mention what happens if you die, all within this chapter. And it's like the foreshadowing is so overhanded, and like obviously this is a book for 4th graders, 3rd graders. I understand that, but I wish they didn't change how they foreshadowed. I just wish they spread it out slightly. Like I wish we found out about the creek going up and down, and maybe they didn't and I missed it.
I mean, I think it's totally fair to think that the foreshadowing is really heavy-handed, especially
just in one chapter.
Especially like with Mabel's little outburst of like, well, what if you like? I understand that she's 7, but what? What?
Yeah.
The thing about the water though is I feel like they do have a conversation about how much it's been raining like before this chapter, like chapter before. Is this chapter? Is that where she does that whole little ritual thingy? Yep. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, because it's 8 and 9. 9 is when they go out and have there's the picture of them in the trees. It's chapter 9. So it happens after Easter. But they start talking about how much it's raining in chapter 8, and then more specifically in chapter 9. So we don't hear any of this foreshadowing until this Easter chapter. And then in like 8 and 9, I'm like, what if one thing is earlier in the book, right? Just till it's more of an idea. And I think that's why the book feels so disjointed to me, the first half. It's because the first half is just like slice of life of this kid.
And then
the second half it's like, oh, this is a thematic piece of work about grief, and that's my issue with the book. That's why I rated it 4 stars instead of 5. Like that's the one thing.
That's very fair.
That's my only issue with the book.
But I do get where you're coming from with that, and I think that's a fair assessment. I have a little bit too much nostalgia for this book to sit there and be like mad about the sudden tone shift, because like honestly that also just read to me as very true for how life is when like bad stuff happens.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's just could have been slightly better, but
that's fair.
Chapter 9 is when they have all the rain and they do that little situation out in the trees and there's that pretty picture. This is also where we find out Jesse cannot swim and he's super anxious about going to Terabithia at this point, and he's talking to himself over and over. He's like, I know if I tell Leslie that I'm scared, she won't make fun of me. I can do this. Like, he talks about being scared, and he talks about hating that he's scared of something, and that the fact that Leslie is so fearless, and that's what he admires about her, is that she's truly herself, that she doesn't care that everyone looks at her because she wears pants like the boys do. And that starts here, and I think it's a really great chapter and a really great insight on Jesse. But everything starts getting kicked up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it's also, I found that also super realistic because, like, a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Kids especially, like, and maybe this is just my memory of it, but, like, when you're a kid in elementary school and you have a friend, you'll go through these. I always went through these phases when I did have friends where we'd be mad at each other for no reason. And it'd be, like, just these little blow-ups of things that have always been happening, but it would flare up and we'd kind of, like, have a week or two where we weren't cool, and then it would, like, resolve in one way or another.
Yeah.
So that felt very, like, on par.
No, definitely. Yeah, so it's raining days and days and days, like,
and Jesse's like, man, this is getting kind of messed up. Like, it's getting super high, and I don't know if we should keep doing this.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say anything to Leslie.
He doesn't say, but he talks to himself about wanting to say something to Leslie. And then one morning he wakes up and Miss Edmond calls their house and is like, hey, Jesse, I'm getting stir crazy and it's raining out. Do you want to go to DC with me to the National Gallery? Have you ever been? And she talks about, like, oh, it's going to be like, he's never been. I'm like, my whole teaching career is good because of this. The fact that a teacher is taking one kid to DC is weird.
It's super, super weird. Like, and you know, all due respect to Miss Edmond. Yeah, it's super weird that you're taking this 8-year-old third grade child, fifth grade. So he's like even weirder, to be totally honest. That's kind of even weirder.
Yeah.
To a museum an hour plus away without actually talking to his parents. You just sit there and you take his word for yes.
Yeah, because Jesse goes and talks to his mom. His mom's, like, kind of asleep in bed, and he's like, I promise I won't be, like, can I go? It's for school. And she's like, don't be by late, but, like, he gets permission, but she's barely barely
awake.
Functioning. Yeah, she's barely conscious. She
doesn't really know what's going on.
Exactly. And so they go to DC. He goes to the National Gallery.
And then he's like, oh, maybe I should invite Leslie. No, I want to spend time with just Miss Edmond and I. And it's like,
that's already when they're down the road a bit. Yeah.
All right, I'll take your word.
Yeah, because he talks about how he's like,
you did finish it this morning.
I did. I read it hours ago. Yeah. Yeah, because they're down the road, and he's like, I felt bad because I didn't think about asking about Leslie until now, but we're already more than halfway there, and I would like to have alone time with Miss Edmonds. So, like,
and this, like, I mean, again, this is not Jesse's fault because he's a little kid with a crush.
Yeah.
It's super weird that his teacher takes the kid that has a crush on him, and you know dang well that child is not doing a good job of hiding that crush, and you take him and talk about how special it is that you get to do this with him. That's weird.
It's grooming.
It's
TBH.
Weird with a capital W.
Yes. But they go, and he has the best day in DC. He gets, like, hyper focused on this painting of buffaloes going over the cliff with a native group hunting the buffaloes, and he gets really, like, into this painting. And he's talking about, he's like, oh, I bet Leslie would like this, as he's going through. And
have you ever seen the, like, painting of and then he imagines this whole conversation that he's going to have with her about like the buffalo painting and how that'd be the one thing she hadn't seen, and he'd get to tell her something for once. And then Miss Edmond buys him lunch.
Yeah. And then when he gets home, everyone's freaking out, and he walks in, and his mom thought he had died because we find out here that Leslie fell from the rope. The rope broke, and she hit her head and died in the water.
And her sister, like, this is the point where Brenda. No, it was Brenda. Oh, yeah. It was the older one. She goes, your girlfriend's dead. And I'm like, ma'am, a child the same age as your brother has died, and you're what? What is up with you?
Teenagers. Vindictive teenagers. Yeah, and it's heartbreaking.
And it's poor Maybelle sitting there being like, I told you he went there, and nobody's listening to her.
Nobody's listening to Maybelle, yeah. But he runs, he goes, and he just like, he doesn't cry right away, but he just like goes and he tries to run to the creek. He tries to run to the Terabithia, and his dad jumps in his car, drives so it gets there before him, and then picks him up like a baby, like Jesse wanted in the beginning. And even says holds Jesse like a baby, and I was just like, this is where I start. Like, it wasn't like obviously Leslie dying, obviously tragic, heartbreaking, but this is where I started crying this morning, was when Jesse was being like, when his dad was like, okay, I'm gonna actually care about you, or like show you that I care about you, you know,
in the exact way that you've been craving. But it took a huge tragedy for this to even slightly occur.
It is heartbreaking.
What really got me, and this happens like a couple pages later, is the funeral happens. And like Janessa said, Jesse doesn't cry for a little bit, but then at the funeral, all of a sudden it just hits him like a ton of bricks.
Well, because he sees all these adults crying, and they're all like talking to him and like stopping halfway because they have to hold their tears back, right? There's all this, and he internally is like, oh, these adults are crying. I thought adults don't cry. And like now he's like having that realization that he's allowed to, like seeing these adults that care about him, and he breaks down. Yeah. And he goes and he throws his paints into the creek in anger, just like sobs. And then his dad comes and comforts him like he comforts the little ones. And I'm just like,
wait, so does that happen twice where the dad comes and comforts him by the creek?
2 different times. Yep. And that's what it got me each time. I was like,
oh, and then it's so sad because like Prince Terabithia comes home with Jesse for a little bit. Yeah. And he sleeps with him in his bed for a couple of days. But
and their parents are letting him, because they're not supposed to have dogs in the house, but they let him because they're like, this boy needs to grieve. Yeah. And
then Leslie's parents are like, hey, we came here for her and she's gone, so we're gonna leave. Yeah. And then like Jesse gives them the dog back. Yeah. And it's like
very sad.
Yeah, like damn.
When he goes, the first day he goes back to school, he goes in and they see that that Leslie's desk has been taken out already, and he kind of like is like freaking out. And then the mean teacher pulls him aside and is like, hey, I lost my husband once, and people told me that was not to not cry and just to keep going. I'm gonna let you know that 1, you can cry, and 2, I did not move that desk. I wanted him to be there, but someone moved it before I got here, and that's not okay. And then he like cries some more there, which I thought was good. That teacher, like, who like isn't an important teacher to him earlier, right? He's like, this is not Miss Edmonds saying this. This is the grumpy teacher. Yeah. And then having this, and they like,
you know who's noticeably absent from this?
Miss Edmonds. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe she got fired because they found out that she took a child.
Hopefully. Lordy. Jesse goes back to Terabithia. Instead of using, obviously the rope was not there because it snapped. But he finds a branch that had fallen and he moves it, so he's able to get it. And it's like a kind of a smaller branch, not a huge trunk of tree. But he gets over there and he's kind of realizing what Terabithia means to him and how he can share it with others, and that he, like, that Leslie showed him the world could be open, and so he needs to leave Terabithia and open the world for himself. And as he's turning back, he hears Maybelle, who's stuck halfway on this branch because she's scared she's gonna fall in, and so he helps her cross, and she's like, you weren't scared at all. I wish I wasn't scared. I shouldn't have done that. He's like, no, I was terrified, but I still had to do it, right? And I thought that was a really sweet moment. But then after the dog and the family move, he's like, can I have the lumber? And he ends up building a bridge
to Terabithia.
Ooh, the
title drop.
And then he tells Maybelle about it, and he's like, I can't wait to show Maybelle and the other sister, I forget her name, about it, the new queens of Terabithia. And
doesn't he call her a princess?
Or princess, whatever, yeah. But whatever,
But it's like they're waiting. Do you see them waiting to meet their new queen, princess, whatever they call her? And it's like, it's such a sweet little ending and such a nice way to sort of, Jesse isn't as into Terabithia, and a couple of times he tries to go out on his own, like specifically when like Leslie is with her dad and helping build this thing. He tries to go on his own, but Leslie's the one that brings the magic to it. And he's just like, without her, I'm just sitting in this cold woods by myself. trying not to get wet.
Yeah.
And like, so this moment of him refinding that magic and reawakening it's so nice and powerful.
Yeah. But yeah. And that's how the book ends. Yeah. And am I still upset that you made me read this? And by made, I mean, there's a list that I compiled and you chose it. So like, my bad for putting the list on. But also, it was really good. But okay, again, the second half was really good. The last 80 pages was really good.
And I do get what you're saying. I just feel like the first half is needed because if you just dropped somebody into the second half of this book.
I just wished it flowed better.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. It's not that the first half was bad. It just felt clunky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking into Katherine Paterson's life.
Are we going to talk about the reason she wrote this book?
Yeah. So Katherine, before that, Katherine Paterson had an interesting life. She was born in China. Her parents were missionaries. In World War II, they moved to Japan by that time, but then they had to leave Japan because of World War II, and she lived in like the Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia area for the majority of her life. Went to school not far from here at King's College, out by Bristol, Tennessee, and then ended up back in like Northern Virginia area for a while. But she wanted to be a missionary like her parents, but she married a pastor, but she ended up not being a full missionary, but like very much in that world, which is interesting because this book got banned a lot for obviously the ending being too grown up for kids, which I think is BS, but also it got banned because of the Terabithia magic witchiness of it all, because conservative Christians just don't like magic. Which is interesting because this book obviously has religious undertones, obviously, but also the fact that Leslie is like, I don't believe in the Bible, but I think it's still beautiful. Like as a character, that's pretty powerful from someone who's like very much in the world of Christianity, as Katherine Paterson is. She's still alive, which is impressive. She's like 96.
Good for her.
Yeah,
probably.
I hope. I hope she's well. But it's just. And like finding out all that background information after I finished it, I was like very interesting. Like, because this book doesn't seem crazy religious based off other books I've read that were children's fiction that are very religious.
It's very like missionary.
Yes.
Religious.
Yes. As a granddaughter of a missionary, yes. But the reason why she wrote this story, because before she wrote this story, she wrote a lot of stories about Japan because she ended up going back there in her 20s and loving it and learning the language. But which is why Miss Edmonds talks about how she lived in Japan for a year. I don't know if you mentioned that, but I saw that. I was like, that's random in the 70s, so random. But then it's because Paterson did that before she got married.
See, I didn't think it was that weird because my grandparents did that in the 70s for a little bit. I mean, like it wasn't like a full visit. It wasn't like a full they lived there. It was a visit.
Yeah. But do you want to talk about what inspired the story?
I'm going to let you do it because I may get the details wrong, and I'd rather you do it right.
So she has like 4 kids, but one of her kids, whose name is David, had a bestie whose name was Lisa. And when they were 8, Lisa and her family were on vacation at a beach, and Lisa got struck by lightning.
And died.
Yes. And so she wrote this inspired by that story to help David with the grief. And also David growing up when he was a baby and toddler was obsessed with bridges. Like she talks about on the website how like when they go driving, they always have to stop at all these certain bridges and talk about them. And so, yeah, which I was like, she talked a lot about bridges on her website. If you want to look at that interview, it's on there. Maybe I'll link to it. But she wrote this because of her son and her son dealing with grief and a story for kids of that age to deal with it, because it's so...
Fun fact, did you know that sometimes kids know people that die?
Right?
And the death is random and unexpected?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not, but even then, it's as when you're a child.
When you're a kid,
it's still random and unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what inspired this. And in the copy I have in the library is the 40th edition. She talks about it more in her little 40th edition blurb. And she also talks about it in her Newbery Awards winning speech when she accepted the speech, which is also in this edition from the library. But if you're interested in those, I recommend reading them. Have you ever read anything else by her? She has a lot of books.
I feel like I did, but I couldn't tell you a single one of them.
I was looking on the website, and the covers look familiar, but I think just because I probably looked at them at the library, not because I actually read them. But she has written a lot of books about characters and kids who live in Japan, which as a white lady, yes, she lived in China for most of her childhood, but still, she's a white lady and now lives in Vermont and was.
I mean, again, it's very on par for a like white lady child of missionaries
in the 70s. Yes.
In the 70s,
yes.
And I mean that with all due respect to this lovely lady. The Great Gilly Hopkins, I read. I have read Bread and Roses too. That's actually a really good book.
Mm-hmm.
It's a historical novel about strikes. It's great. Nice. My sister had Jacob I Have Loved.
She strikes me as the kind of 70s missionary Christian lady that was kind of like pretty liberal within the world of Christianity.
Yes, that's exactly her vibe.
She reminds me in the same way that my Bappa was, because
like in that way that people who are older were liberal for the time, but not in
not in all senses.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't really have any fun facts because this book made me cry, so I didn't want to think about it between the hours of me finishing it and Amanda coming over. I was bawling. You can ask Isaac.
Yeah, The Great Gilly Hopkins is a good one.
Yeah. Nice.
Genuinely, people should look at some of these books.
Well, thanks, Amanda, for forcing me to read this book and cry. It's
You're
your fault
welcome.
I cried. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to your preferred platform. Rate us 5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, don't worry about it. Thank you for listening. And remember, read the book first.